What's up guys, your boy CJ here, back with another video. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm doing pretty well myself. Anyway, as you can see, today we're back at the table again, and from the title description below, we're going to be talking about the EOS R5. Yeah, baby. Anyway, you guys probably already seen like hundreds of reviews of the EOS R5 on the internet already since before it came out. There was a bunch of leaks and all that, but personally, I'm going to talk to you guys about my experience after 6 months of using it. Yes, I myself have one unit right here. I'm one of the few lucky ones to get it, and the second batch or so. But yeah, I'm one of the few lucky ones. And let me tell you something, this camera has blown me away every step of the way ever since I first gotten it, and until now I'm still loving it. Now, if you guys don't know that, ever since before I upgraded to the EOS R5, I've always used my trusted Canon 650D. I'm not quite sure what the model is. It is in the US, it's T something, I have no idea what it is. But yeah, this is the Canon 650D. It's my trusted camera, it's my very first camera, and up to now it's still a great camera, of course, for me personally, for photos, but for videos it was lacking, and it aged well. It's been 8 years since I first gotten it, and I figured it was time to actually upgrade it to something a little bit more that can, you know, compare to my skill set. Anyway, so without further ado, let's get into it. My little bit of my impression after 6 months of using the EOS R5. So moving on. Alright, so first things first, let's talk about the form factor and just in general a little bit of going through this camera itself. Of course, the EOS R5 is a full frame mirrorless camera from Canon itself, and it's very different from what I'm used to. I'm used to have a APS-C camera, and if you guys don't know what APS-C means, for Canon it means to have a 1.6 times zoom, whereas for other brands it's 1.5 times zoom. I have no idea why they did that, but you know, it's Canon. They're reliable either way. So basically the system of everything I used to have is completely different. The APS-C used to use the EFS mounting system, whereas the EOS R5 uses the RF mounting system. However, for you guys out there that already has EF lenses, which is the full frame lineup for Canon itself, with the ones with the red rings. Let me see if I can get one. So yeah, here I have the 85mm EF 1.4. You can see the red ring by the signature red ring. These are EF lenses. So if you guys have these lenses, you don't have to worry about it. You can actually get the adapter from RF to EF lenses. Adapter for your EOS R series, which is very great because Canon decided to make their own dedicated instead of us having to go outside and get a third-party adapter, which is great news. Of course, moving on, the EOS R5 itself is generally a lot heavier than the EOS 650D that I'm used to. However, I would say that the weight is perfect. It's not as heavy. I would say it's about the range of high 5D series weight. I would give you the figure, but then again, personally, I don't think figure would really matter that much. But yeah, it's generally around the weight of a 5D series camera, which is great. I would say a little bit lighter, but adding on any lenses, it will make it significantly heavier, of course, front side anyways. Of course, like I said, it was an RF mounting system, which means you can get the RF lenses. Of course, if you guys can get them now, and to my knowledge, they're quite running out of stock because of the pandemic and stuff. Moving on, it has an extremely comfortable ergonomics. Of course, like I said, compared with the weight, adding on with a lens is extremely comfortable. I have no problems whatsoever after using it for nearly 6 months for photo and videography, and it was just a dream of making it. It has a little bit of small OLED up there in comparison to my 650D. It does not, whereas the EOS R5 has a small OLED on top of the camera itself, which helps out a lot during my process of switching modes, and of course some settings. I don't have to look at the screen. All I need to do is just look from the top and make things a lot more faster, of course. You could, however, use OLED if you like, but personally, that little OLED, that little screen up there helps out a lot. Okay, moving on for battery. Now, if you guys have the EOS R batteries, you can definitely use them, or you can have the previous LPE6, LPE6N, or LPE6NH, which is what the R5 is currently using. LPE6NH are the batteries that allows for USB-C charging, which is great news. Just so you know, LPE6NH, if I'm not mistaken, is a little bit bigger than the LPE6N. I'm not quite sure. To be honest, it's a little bit confusing with the new ones. They're not to mention they're a mouthful and they're a little bit confusing. But just so you know, if you guys have those previous batteries, the LPE6s, just keep them. You can definitely use them if you guys decided to get the R5 itself. So let's move on to the photo aspect of the camera itself. Just so you guys know, this is a 45 megapixel camera. Probably some of you guys already know that, but yeah, the 45 megapixel, it's so versatile because of the large, the amount of pixels captured. It allows me to of course, zoom in the case of crops, basically for photo, to crop in case of any extra details. And I will still maintain the amount of sharpness and amount of details that I would like, because you know it's 45 megapixels, and if you crop it down to 22 megapixels, it's exactly the same as the 5D series. You guys not counting 5D SR, that's a little bit of a beast. But yeah, if I crop it down to 22 megapixels, which is a lot from 45 megapixels, it will be exactly the same image as produced in the 650D, not counting the sharpness and a little bit of difference wise. Of course, knowing that this is a full frame camera, for me, getting that depth of field upgrading from a APS-C camera is amazing. I have used a full frame camera in the past. I've used the 1D series, the 5D series, as well as a little bit of Sony. I don't really touch them that much because of a personal conflict with them. Of course, I would say that the depth of field provided by a full frame camera is something I love a lot. Probably one of the reasons why I decided to upgrade to full frame instead of sticking to APS-C. There are APS-C cameras nowadays that are incredible. However, I just prefer having the full frame flexibility, of course. Of course, moving on, we have the dynamic range. Now, this applies both to video as well as photo, but we're going to talk about photo. It is amazing. I am able to pick out all the details in the shadows, as well as not overexposing the highlights. Everything is soft and perfect. And if you expose your photo correctly, it will come out a perfect image, even without needing to edit as much, which what I found very useful compared to my 650D. Whereas my 650D back then, no matter how well I expose the photo, I would still need to do a little bit of touch up here and there. But for the EOS R5, I would say that if you do it perfectly and everything is just nice and not need to, and you frame your subject correctly, I would say that you don't even need to touch Lightroom anymore. Just export it out and print it out. I'm sure you'll be great. You know what? Scratch the printing part. Printing a bit of a it's a little bit of a different category altogether. All right. So yeah, let's moving on. Okay, we have reached the video aspect, and of course the EOS R5 is the first 8K DSLR size camera that can shoot 8K video, and in this case it can shoot 8K 422 10-bit H.265 format or 8K RAW internally, which is amazing. From what I gather from from my research from the past cameras, to get that kind of dynamic to get that kind of feature, I would say it's quite impossible in a camera this size. However, it does come with its drawback. I have tested 8K files before. Unfortunately, at the moment, I am not being able to edit 8K RAW. I have tried out 8K all I 60 frames, no 30 frames, sorry. I have tried that out. However, I have also not edited it yet because of some issues with my Premiere. I'm currently in the process of fixing it, so if I were to have it, I will probably display it up now. If I don't, I'm really sorry about that. However, just so you guys know, Premiere have released the latest update for you guys to edit a Canon C RAW, so you guys can go ahead and edit it now. Yeah, but for me, I have not updated my Premiere yet because I'm just not that confident in updating a new Premiere because of my past experiences. Sometimes they fail and it's not fun. Anyway, so yeah, moving on. We have, of course, the most interesting things of all, which is the 4K 120 FPS for me personally, anyway. And do note that all of the modes that are in the EOS R5 includes autofocus. However, for the 120 frames per second 4K in the Canon EOS R5 does not include sound, which is a little bit of a shame, but with the DPAF it's incredible, and so far I've no few with it. I'm very happy with it, and the 4K allows me to crop in case of any excess materials in my frame, of course. So that's a little bit of flexibility. However, I'm not particularly happy with it because of the file size is incredibly big. I remember I shot 2 minutes of 120 frames and it's around 10 gigabytes. I'm gonna put a text up here in case I'm mistaken, all right? But so far that's a little bit of what I gotten so far. I know it's a little bit excessive for you guys, like 2 minutes 10 gigabytes, but when you got a camera this size, you have to expect the amount of storage you have to handle, because it is a 45 megapixel sensor recording at 4K, so it's a bit of expected. It's 120 frames after all. I'm still waiting for the 120 frames full HD version, 1080p, for easier management from my side, so that I don't have to run proxy every single time I edit it. So I'm still waiting for that. Supposedly Canon is releasing it soon. I'm just waiting for it, and once I do, I'll probably be able to use even more of this feature. But so far now, I'm happy with the 4K 120 frames. I'm using it every chance I got. So yeah, that's for it. I'm really sorry if I'm not being a little bit unprofessional, because my notes is up here. There's so much to talk about this camera. I have to write it down before I forget. I'm a little bit of a forgetful person, so sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, I think I'm gonna close this now. I don't think I need it. So yeah. All right, so we have, of course, the 4K high quality mode. Now you might be wondering between the 4K and 4K high quality mode, the name itself speaks for itself, high quality. I would say that in terms of 4K, if you guys are new to shooting 4K, you wouldn't probably mind about how much quality it produces. However, if you're the type of guy that always zoom in and you want to have the best quality possible, 4K high quality mode is the way to go. I have tested it, and I find that 4K high quality mode is more sharper, it collects more data and allows me for more flexibility in editing, as well as it just looks better in 4K high quality mode. However, it is a lot, the size of the file is a little bit larger, not a little bit, it's you know, it's decent size larger than the standard 4K all-in. Well, you know, it's high quality mode. You gotta sacrifice something to get something more high quality. Furthermore, the 4K high quality mode allows me to do something that is not something I would do normally, which is frame grabbing. I would say that if you are the type to frame grab from your video, I would say that 4K high quality mode is definitely the way to go in comparison to normal 4K. However, if you're not the type, you can always take a picture yourself. 45 megapixels is a lot for you to work with. It's amazing quality. With the right lens, you get as sharp as on earth. Alright, so now we have reached a little bit of the end. Now I've already been recording for about 16 minutes, but by the time I cut this down, it's about, I don't know, 13 minutes or so. For me, it's a little bit of a long video, but however, I want you guys to give an overall impression of my overall impression conclusion of the EOS R5. Anyway, so overall, I would say that if you are the first timer upgrading from an APS-C camera and going to full frame and decide to pick the EOS R5, be prepared for the humongous file size. I average around 90 megabytes for raw photos. Each photo is about 90 megabytes. So if you accumulate that over time, it's a little bit of a huge files, all right? I have taken about three full sessions of one is wedding day, another one is a sports event, and another one is a photo shoot. I've taken all three, and it's quite large. Overall, I've captured about 600 gigabytes, give or take, of photos, of course. If you guys can, of course, don't need to use RAW and decide to use JPEG, is of course up to you. However, I personally use RAW only. I shoot RAW only. This is just a personal preference. I would say that JPEG cut down about 60 megabytes. I'm not, don't quote me on that. It might differ for your use case, but for me, it's around 60 megabytes. Yeah, so 30 megabytes, although not a lot, if you accumulate it by 2,000 photos, it's still a lot. So yeah, that's number one for storage size. For video size, same thing. Like I said, this now in the 4K 120 frames per second, 2 minutes is about 10 gigabytes. So you do the math, depending on how much you shoot, you're gonna need a lot of hard drive. I already purchased a new hard drive in anticipation to get this camera, of course. yeah, so I'm pretty much halfway set to it. I have a 4TB, 6TB drive there, so it probably will last me a couple of years at least before I have to get another one. But yeah, moving on. The battery size of the camera is so-so. I wouldn't say it's best. I wouldn't say it's the worst either. For you guys, if you guys shoot in an incredibly a large amount of photos in one day, you probably be prepared to get a couple batteries with you. By the time I suppose you guys get in this camera, you probably have a couple spare. Alright, now let's talk about the memory card. I do suppose I missed out a little bit. The memory card of the EOS R5, it takes one is the SD card, another one is a CFexpress card. Now if you guys go search online, the CFexpress card does not come cheap. And if I were you, I would probably get a 1/2 terabyte or just two 1/2 terabytes just to be done with it. Trust me, if you guys decide to buy a small 256 gigabytes card, let me tell you, if you guys shoot an entire day, you would probably run into memory issues. So get a 1/2 terabyte at the very least. That's my opinion. I usually shoot photos and videos together, so 1/2 terabyte is enough for me. I'm using the ProGrade version at the moment. It works well so far. It hasn't given me much issues. Touch wood in case of anything. That's just it works well. It works well. Right? It works amazing. All right, let's just not say anything else. All right, moving on. All right, now we have reached the conclusion, the final conclusion of whether or not this camera is a great camera. Now, personally, I've used 1Ds, 5Ds, and I would say that this is an amazing camera. If eye autofocus is a thing for you and you really want it, definitely get it. All right. And furthermore, if you are an all-rounded user, all-rounded meaning if you're a videographer, you shoot videos as well as photos, definitely get the R5. You will not regret it. Of course, further on, if you of course are just a photo photographer and you don't need that 45 megapixels and you shoot a lot in low light, I would suggest you to go for the EOS R6. Personally, I've not personally used it. However, I've received feedbacks from several users that have used it, especially photographers. I would suggest, they always tell me that EOS R5 is a little bit overkill for them. So yeah, EOS R6 definitely suits their work well, and it definitely satisfies all their material needs. Wow, what's in my English today? So yeah, if you guys are photographers and photographers alone, or even videographers, you don't need 8K, you don't need all this really high-end stuff, high-end features and 4K high quality. You're just a regular Joe, just starting out. EOS R6 would definitely suit you a lot better. EOS R5 for me is just for a long-term purposes, as well as several features that I'm actually needing. 45 megapixels, mainly because I like to take high details photos, and I often deal with printing photos, so 45 megapixels is a good amount of megapixels for me to print out much more detailed photos, as well as cropping even more, which is really helpful. Now, at the time of this filming of this video, I have received news of EOS R5C, which is the rumored cinema lineup of the EOS R5, supposedly to be DSLR size, but it will overcome the problem of overheating during shooting of 8K as well as 4K high quality, which is great if it's true. For me, I wouldn't really put my hopes on it because I tend not to use those high qualities. 4K high quality, yes, during shooting B-rolls and B-rolls only. However, for normal like talking section like this, I would probably use 4K or even just 1080p because that's all I really need, since this is YouTube after all. Giving out 4K at the moment is a little bit over the top for me, and it's a little bit too much stressing on the amount of storage I would need. So 1080p is all I need. But for you guys out there, you guys have to make a decision yourself as to your usage, as well as just your preference, of course. If you have the budget, you can afford I think it's around 16,500 ringgit right now for the EOS R5 body. I would suggest you guys to go for it, but no, if not, you guys have a little bit lower budget and you don't really need all these fancy features, EOS R6 is the way to go, man. As you say, the new EOS R line, the R5 and R6, and as well as the C70. Yeah, by the way, you guys can look into C70 if you guys are just video users and no photos whatsoever. C70 is a great camera. I've seen reviews about it. Unfortunately, I'm not getting it because I'm a photographer as well. So overall, final conclusion. If you have the budget, you use all these features, get the EOS R5. If no, don't need these features, no budget below 10K or around 10K, go to EOS R6. All right. So yeah, anyway, it's your boy CJ here. I hope you guys like this little my impression video after 6 months of using it. It's an incredible camera. I love it so much, and I will keep continuing loving it more. Anyway, if you guys want to know anything else, do drop it down in the comment below. I will answer them for you. And furthermore, if you guys like this video, share it out with friends and tell them about my impressions. And if I'm wrong about anything, please do advise me down below in the comment section. I always appreciate new advice. I always try to listen to them. Of course, I like to interact with people. All right, so yeah, it's your boy CJ here, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Yeah, ciao.